Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome to Design Dash. I'm Laura Umansky, your co-host, here with Melissa Grove, my co-host. And today's guest is Carolyn Rodz, a three-time founder and the powerhouse behind Hello Alice, one of the most influential platforms supporting women and minority small business owners. Carolyn's background spans investment banking, public policy, entrepreneurship, global advocacy. But what we admire most is how she's designed a life on her own terms. She recently relocated to Spain with her family, which we're going to dig into, because she is renovating a historic rectory while continuing to scale Hello Alice. We're going to dive into business, leadership, life pivots, and what it looks like to build a fulfilling life as a founder. So Carolyn, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, I have always wanted to just pick up and move abroad. So I've got to start there. What prompted this move? How did you decide on Spain? And then how did you convince your family it was a good idea? And I'm assuming you did this.
Yeah, great questions. Well, it started probably the same reason you started off that comment was I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
We had talked about it, my husband and I, for a really long time. I grew up, my mother is from Bolivia, my husband's family is Cuban. And so for us, always the US was sort of this, landing spot where we both ended up in life, but always well aware that there was much more to the world and how great it would be to expose our kids to that. And so we always talked about someday Europe, someday Europe, someday Europe. And we did it for about 10 years. And like many people over COVID, when we were sitting in our house one day, staring at the fence line right around us, and we're like, there's more out there. Like, if we're not going to do it now, when? And he was at a stopping point with his work. He had wrapped up some projects and was kind of ready to move on to the next thing. That was really the big thing that held us back, because my company has always been a remote company. I live on an airplane no matter what. And so I was like, well, if you're ready to quit, I'm ready to go. So it ended up being kind of really perfect timing for both of us. And school renewals were up in about 30 days. And we were like, okay, if it's time, we have to make the decision in the next 30 days. So are we going to renovate our kitchen, and are we going to stay here and settle in, or are we going to, make the move? And we decided ultimately to make the move. And the rest is kind of history. It happened quite fast from there.
It's amazing it took a pandemic to make us all take notice and really pull the trigger, so to speak, on a big change, right?
I think it was time to stop and break the routine. We sort of go day to day to day, and you don't think a whole lot about what you're doing. I mean, I think we think, at night over a glass of wine or something, but when you really stop and have a long period of time to just think about life and what matters and the things that you missed and the things that you didn't, I think it centered all of us a little bit on what was important to us.
I agree. I mean, that's the same exact time that we picked up and made the move to Aspen, to Colorado, because we'd said, oh, one day, we're going to do that. But you didn't just make a move, you took on a big project. So tell us about this rectory that you are renovating right now. You've been on a job site all day.
So the plan. We decided we were going to move. I was actually going to Bolivia to visit family with the kids, and my husband, who grew up in Miami, mostly loves sea level, doesn't love the mountains of Bolivia. So he had passed on that trip. And since we were gone, he was like, well, I'm going to go pop over to Spain and check out this area, Galicia, that I've heard about. And his grandparents were from there. And so I was like, great, go check it out and let me know how it is. And if it's great, we're going to move. Because we didn't even know where we were going at this point. We just knew come May, we have sort of freedom to go anywhere. And so he went over, looked at everything, came back and said it was wonderful. I was like, I'm ready to go. He's like, I'm absolutely not moving somewhere if you haven't seen it yet. Let's go. So in April, we packed.
You're like, sight unseen. Sounds good. Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm in. My thought is always, any decision in life, if it's not the right one, there's always time to change it.
Exactly.
Nothing's permanent. So we went in April with the kids, looked at schools, looked for a home. The area we ended up purchasing this rectory wasn't even the area that we were originally looking. And it was the last place that we looked at. And I had seen it, and it was much larger than what we needed for a house. It's quite large. But I wanted to see it out of curiosity. It just looked pretty. And I was like, well, we should go check this place out. It was half done. It was a shell of a place that the former owner had started this renovation and worked on it over 10 years and just never finished. And we got there and the sun was setting. We couldn't see much. We're walking around with flashlights trying to see this property, and it's on a valley and a hillside. And like we had like about 10 minutes to kind of see it all before the sunset. And I fell in love. I walked through and I was like,
You're like, can't see it. It's perfect.
Amazing. And we were flying out the next morning. And so on the way to the airport, we were like, let's stop one more time and see this because we saw it so fast. Let's see it in the daylight. And it was this super foggy day. And we're driving up and it was foggy. You couldn't see like your hand in front of your face the whole drive.
Wow.
And then we get to this valley and it was like the sun was just shining on this place. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. It's so clear. We can see this perfectly. I'm like, this is great. And initially our plan was to build a house next door and then start a hotel here.
Oh.
Which again, we'd always talked about sort of this very lofty what if. And we talked about it over the next month and I'm like, I think we should do it. I think we should do it. But if we were to do it, I'm like, I still have a job and I have to work, so I can't do it. But I'm like, you have to do it because you have time and flexibility. So I really had to convince my husband that he needed to open a hotel. A little bit of a discussion point. He's like, neither of us know hospitality. It's
Right.
not our backgrounds. But we love crazy ideas. He's very entrepreneurial. I'm very entrepreneurial. We're like, this is what a great way for the next act of our lives. And I finally convinced him, as I often do, on crazy ideas.
I love crazy ideas. I think that's amazing. And so, but you said you weren't going to stop what you were doing to renovate a rectory and turn it into a hotel. So, I know Melissa wants to dig in on this too. Tell us about Hello Alice. Tell us about what you're doing, who it supports, all of it.
This is my third company. I am an entrepreneur at heart, for better or for worse. I'm the daughter of an entrepreneur, the granddaughter of entrepreneurs, very different types of businesses. But I love small business. I love that part of just growing things. And I think that's how I got swept up into this whole thing in Spain in the first place, is I love the idea of just building a concept, taking an idea from nothing to something and creating something and just looking at sort of what you've created and taking a step back. So because I love it so much, I decided what better way to shift my career than to focus on helping as many small businesses as I can grow these companies. And that was really the impetus for Hello Alice. My first company after I left investment banking failed. I started a second company in the branding, marketing, and digital media space and sold that ultimately. And it was that experience of seeing that the same entrepreneur could have such different experiences if they just have access to resources, to networks, to the knowledge of lessons learned from all the people who have stumbled over these paths before them, what a difference it makes in growing a business. And so Hello Alice is really just a digital platform to help every entrepreneur from the time they have a concept for a business to the time they exit that business, find the right resources at the right time, all based on who they are, where they live, what industry they're in, the type of company they want to grow, so that there's not all that time filtering through what's relevant to me right now and what should I be focused on. So for me, my plan, I founded this company with my co-founder, Elizabeth. I never had any intention of leaving. I love this company. I love what we do. I love the spirit of entrepreneurship. And I'm on an airplane all the time, just the same as I was before. Our market is primarily the United States, but we're a digital platform, so that makes it really easy to work from wherever. So I work New York hours, have late nights behind the computer, and fly to the States at least once a month. And so it works really well.
Oh, cool. Is working with Elizabeth the first time that you've ever worked with a partner, being an entrepreneur your whole life? Is it difficult working with somebody else?
It's not my first time to have a partner. I started my first company alone. That was the one that failed. So maybe that tells you something. I have great partners, but I don't know about myself. I started my second company with an amazing partner. And ultimately I think we're really just kind of going in different directions with life and what we wanted to do with the company. And so ran that company for a great period of time together. And when I met Elizabeth, it was interesting. And I think I would say of you know, I don't like my spouse. I feel like there's just such a great fit in terms of the way we see the world and the way we see business and the way we see running a team together. We're very different people, uh, very different people, but I think it's what makes it work. But our values at our core are the same. We're both very hardworking. We both really care about our team, both really care about the businesses that we serve. She came very much from a macro level of seeing the social impact that entrepreneurship can have on the globe. She came from the UN Foundation and a lot of years working in philanthropy. I came from the micro perspective of what a difference this makes for a single entrepreneur building a business. And when we brought that together, I think we still very much look at it through those lens. She works a lot with our partnerships and corporations. I work a lot with the business owner's perspective. And so we kind of have our lanes, but ultimately are moving to the same place.
Yeah. That's good. I think, Laura and I work together in a partnership, but we're also very different. But I think that that's what really helps. And we were actually talking about this in our last podcast. We were talking about our different perspectives on failure. And because she and I see it very differently. And I was actually listening to your TED Talk on YouTube about failure. And so I wanted to ask you about that because I really appreciated your perspective. I felt like it was very similar to my own, just very not sugar-coated, very honest. And I like how you said that, you have to anticipate failure. Like failure is to be expected, especially when you're running your own business. But I think that sometimes when I anticipate it, it really brings me down. So how have you learned to get better about dealing with failure?
I always tell my kids, if they haven't failed, they're not trying hard enough and they're not risking enough.
Yeah.
But you do have to be calculated in your risk and you have to be thoughtful. Obviously, it's not something that you're looking for ever. I start every project with a risk map and I think, what's the worst that can happen? I did the same thing when we moved. I'm like, all right, we're going to move to
Worst
Spain.
case
We're going to find this.
scenario.
What's the worst that can happen? I'm like, this hotel
Yeah.
is a bus. We end up sinking a ton of money into this project. We don't know the first thing about hospitality. Everything goes terrible. And my worst case scenario was we own a beautiful property on the side of a mountain in a beautiful place that I would love to live and would be very happy. And I invited my friends to visit and we've got this space. That's the worst that can happen. And then how do I de-risk? That's obviously not the ideal scenario. It'd be great to have this be a great success and it operates in a very independent way. And so then I start thinking about how do I sort of move from that worst case scenario to the best case scenario to mitigate those risks. But I always make sure I'm comfortable with the worst case scenario for anything. When I started my company, I'm like, if this fails, and that's the beauty of having failed. I know exactly what failure feels like in the worst of ways. I was broke. I had no career path. I didn't know what I was going to do. Luckily, I was by myself. So recovering from that by myself, again, my worst case scenario was I can go, get a job. I know I can always make minimum wage somewhere and figure something out and piece things together and build a path up. And I did. I took a job following that failure, making a third of what I was making in investment banking. But it worked. And frankly, that helped carve the path that introduced me to the world of branding and marketing. I learned a ton through that. And then I built a business based on what I learned and where I saw gaps in a market. So it's sort of like everything is a stepping stone. And when I look back at my life, I just want to know I led a fun and adventurous life and helped people out somewhere along the way. And I think as long as I'm doing that, whatever the path, success, failure, for me, it's much more about what I learned and what I experienced throughout it. And there's failures. I have failures if not every day, certainly every week in some capacity. So it's just part of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about then some successes. Let's talk about branding. Now, I'm not a designer like Laura is. I've been in marketing my entire career. So I saw that you had a virtual summit in branding. You've had a back in January, and you've had a branding business, which I think that's my bread and butter. So that's what I want to selfishly talk about. I feel like we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs on this podcast, and I feel like most of them, like all of the successful ones, love the branding part of marketing. Just absolutely love it. Or they've partnered with somebody who really, really loves it. What is your approach to branding? Like, I feel like for interior design, branding just seems so obvious and easy. It's gorgeous. But how do you make fintech really compelling? Because you do a great job of that. How do you do it?
I think it's about the human experience at the end of the day. It's very much, I think, what you all do every day, right? It's how are you building a joyful human experience in some capacity. And that's anything that we do. I mean, I think it's those tiny moments and tiny things that add up into big things. And I have this battle with my husband every day as we're designing our rectory. I mean, I think it's interesting because there's things he's like, why is this so important to you? Like the what you're putting between the ground and the wood, like what is this? Why does this matter? And I'm like, it's this. I was like, every time I look at it, like I'm gonna find such joy from looking at this piece of metal here. This matters to me. I know it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me. Or how the doorknob feels, or how the click on my, when I click my mouse on a website, what does that click feel like? Those things make such a big difference because it's those tiny moments that sort of build this experience that is meaningful. And it's not that, look, the website is not that important at the end of the day. But it's when you surprise and delight people and you find moments to sort of break that routine and get them out of what they're expecting in any situation in in a more pleasant way. That to me is building a brand. And it's everything from going to the dentist's office to getting our car washed to drinking a cup of coffee. All of those moments just build a more joyful human experience. And how cool is that we get to be a part of that? And I think that's the part that I love about building businesses. It's what experience are you trying to create, and how are you trying to make someone's life? How are you trying to solve a pain point in their life? But how are you trying to surprise and delight them in that experience in some way to go above and beyond the solution that they're expecting?
Oh, so it's very emotional for you, is what it sounds like. You're creating this connection.
Completely. And I think all of those pieces, I mean, right now we're looking for the hotel, like we're thinking about the uniforms that we're going to have. And, what happens when somebody walks into the entry? What's the first experience that they're going to have? And when they put their head on the pillow at night, what does that feel like? And those little moments of bringing back sort of some emotion. For us, it's very much rooted in the history of Galicia, of what is this region about? And I think it's an area that's so beautiful and so unique, and frankly, so secluded from the rest of the world in this corner of Spain. When we think about Spain, you think about, flamenco and fans and bullfights and sangria and all of these things. None of that is here. We have bagpipes and stone, old stone
Mhm.
walls and queimadas. These are incredible, traditions that are really rooted in the history of this place. That's what I want to bring to our guests ultimately, that there's this experience that they've never seen before and know nothing about. And what a beautiful and cool kind of connection to the earth and connection to this land and connection to the space that we can help build.
So you're so excited about it. That gets me excited about it.
I know, and I love hearing, like, all of the sensory, like, it's all of your senses, it's touching everything, and I get that, like, so what does it smell like? What does it sound like? I love all of
You'll
this.
laugh. I have literally in my office here about 50 soaps with different scents. And my husband's like, why can't you just buy a soap off the shelf? I'm like, no, it has to be scents that are rooted in the land. And I don't know where to buy them or figure them out. So I'm like, I'm going to figure it out myself. I'm going to make them. And then I can go find somebody to make them for me. But I'm like, I have to perfect it myself. And I love
But it's
getting my
not just
hands
it's not just a
into those
scent, then
things.
you've gotta try it, and what's that tactile experience, and yeah, I get it, like, totally, but
Yeah, I
I
love the
want
projects. And I love a new project and a new challenge.
I do too. Okay, we can talk about so much there because okay, let me just stick with this. Um, I wanna know how stepping outside of the States, like leaving the US, this ecosystem here, how has it shifted your view, or has it, of entrepreneurship and opportunity, like just getting out of your day to day here in the US?
Oh my gosh, completely. It's interesting because I grew up a hybrid between the US and Bolivia. That was our
Mhm.
summer getaway. I had so much family and my cousins and friends and everybody there. So I always sort of had this dual culture that I
Mhm.
grew up in. What was really different coming to Spain, in my mind, it's going to be very much like Latin America. Like it's sort of what I assumed it would. I visited Spain and I'd been on vacation, but I never really integrated into Spanish culture before. And there are pieces of it. To me, I would say it's sort of this wonderful hybrid between US culture and Latin American culture, but it's very different in a lot of ways. But it's also very simple. And I think I didn't realize how much
Mhm.
the US had. I mean, I sort of knew it, I guess, inherently, but I think it's been eye opening constantly to me of just culturally how different it is to be in a place. One, I think in just a smaller town. I grew up, I mean, I spent most of my time in the States in Houston, which is a massive city. Now I'm in Malvas, Spain, which is a very teeny tiny town on a mountainside. It's interesting, just the simplicity and authenticity of life. I mean, just as an example, there's a little uh, bar down the street next to the church in the town where we live, and there's an old group of men there that play cards every weekend, and they don't play for money. They play for a leg of ham. Like they walk out with a giant ham leg on their weekend after their weekend card game. Or
Win
we
that
have with the
ham.
neighbors. Everybody brings their local, licores that they've made in their house, and you're trying all these drinks that people have made in their homes, and it's just this very real old world feel that's incredibly different. And I see that even on my kids go to British international school here, but it's still
Mhm.
just culturally very, very real. I remember the first, few months we were here, I asked one of my son's classmates, I'm like, so what do you want for Christmas? And he's like, I want a book and a puzzle. And I remember being like, a book and a puzzle? Like, that's so cool. Who wants a book and a puzzle? But it's just simple. And I value that. And so it sort of brought me back to what is real and what matters. And at the end of the day, I mean, I no longer care what brand of clothes are what I'm wearing or how fancy, the places that I'm going on vacation. It's very much about who am I spending my time with? You know, can I take a walk on the beach that morning or go walk through the woods or sit out in a garden? Like it's just real. And I look at social media and I'm like, I genuinely don't care now. I think there was a time where I would look at it and I'm like, that's fine. People could do their thing. And I love it. I look at it, I appreciate it for its beauty and for these wonderful things. But I don't feel any sense of I should be doing that.
Yeah, no
Which is
FOMO
really
at
fun.
all.
It was a shift.
So on the flip side, not the flip side necessarily, but just like a very like what you're living, your day to day that you've put yourself into now is very different than Hello Alice. Like the women or the groups, the business owners that you're serving are really diverse, right? So I'd love to hear like a couple of examples or stories of the women or the businesses that you're working with that you feel like have really inspired you.
Oh my gosh, so many all the time. I think that the piece for me that I get most inspired by is, and I think it's why I love the early stage of entrepreneurship, is the excitement. It's like sort of this fresh, like you come in and
Sky's
there's
the
something
limit.
new and a vision you believe in, and you're so excited about it. It's before you've been kind of, bumped around a bit, knocked around, and staying up late worrying about cash flow. It's those moments that you believe in the dream, and that part to me is so exciting. I think about it like a new parent, like there's a purity and a perfection to this idea that you have, and and that's something really beautiful that I love that part of it.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you're jaded and you're like, God, I could do
Elementals and
anything. Anything is possible. And yes, I
yes,
totally
there's no
agree.
timeline. No one's knocking on your door. I mean, I think you're sort of working and toiling away at this vision. Um, yes, I think that part is really exciting, and so that fuels me because it gives me the energy to sort of come back to, I'm always stay very centered. And why did I start this company in the first place? Why did I believe this was a good idea? Why did I believe I needed to place, all my bets on this path? It fuels me, and it seems like every time that I'm super, down in the dumps, and there are definitely those days when I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I don't know how we're gonna like claw ourselves out of this one. It seems like those are always the times I get a phone call from someone or a text or an email or somebody posts something about what a difference Hello Alice made in their career path
Yeah.
and in their business journey, and a door that it opened. And sometimes it's often quite indirect. It's, they met somebody in an event and that person introduced them to somebody and that person did this, but they sort of take it back to, I'm so grateful for Hello Alice because it helped me get to this point. And for me, that's just such fuel. And we have 1.5 million businesses on the platform now.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
But honestly, it's like those single emails or those single comments that make the biggest difference to me.
Mhm. And so how do you balance that scale, 1.5 million businesses? Like that's huge. and it's a diverse audience. So how are you balancing that scale with like the personal support for each of these founders? That's a big undertaking. Like I can't even fathom.
Yeah, I mean, we always try to kind of get back to remembering that on the other side of that computer screen is an individual. We don't call the users on our platform users, we call them owners. And part
Uh-huh.
of that is just our culture of like, this is somebody who is putting all of their faith in this business that they're trying to grow to sustain their family, to pay their bills, to keep the lights on, to pay employees. This business matters very much to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the mentality that I wake up with every day, that, you know, drive my team to wake up with every day, is remember who is on the other side of that computer. So you know, screwing around at work or not doing what you need to do, like that impacts somebody's livelihood. So show up, give your best. Every detail matters. These things are really important and critical to somebody's livelihood. The better we do, the better their business is. In terms of the scale, it's taking that micro experience, saying, okay, once we figure something out, how does it work for one person? What's the ideal experience? If I'm going to start a business tomorrow and I could wave my magic wand, what is everything I want in my, at my fingertips today? I want as much capital as I can get. I want the best mentorship and guidance I can get. I want the best opportunities. I want the most doors open. I want the best customers. How do we create that experience for one person? And then how do we start to scale that? So as an example, mentorship has always been really important to us, but we've never been able to do it at scale. Now with AI, we're launching an AI board of advisors. So you can have your financial advisor, your strategic advisor, and your marketing advisor who all know about your business. They know everything about your company. They know what it takes to be successful from a financial perspective or from a marketing perspective or from a sales perspective for your business in your industry, what that looks like. And now you can have this advice from different voices coming to you for your business, say, here are the things that you need to run your company. That's how we try to sort of think about how do we take best case scenario and scale it. Best businesses have an amazing board of advisors they can tap into.
Mm-hmm.
Most businesses don't. How do we bring that experience to everybody?
So we're going best case and worst case scenario. That's what we want to know.
Exactly. I mean, you think about most businesses, don't qualify for a credit card. And you think about trying to run your business without a credit card, that's the reality of running a business in the US today. Something that
Wow.
many of us never think about. I never thought about it
No.
before I looked at the statistics. So we said, okay, how do we there's all this grant funding going out. How do we take grant funding and use that to de-risk for the banks what it means to give a credit card to a small business owner? Let's de-risk that scenario and actually put a credit card in somebody's hands to help them get that first bit of working capital for their company. Makes a massive difference that they can wait 30 days to pay a bill, something
Yes.
that many of us take for granted and don't really think about. So it's it's those little steps of just chipping away, but it's a puzzle at the end of the day. How do we fit all these pieces together and figure out, okay, what do the banks need? What do community leaders need? What do organizations need? What does the business owner need? And how do we fit all these pieces together in a way that works and potentially could work at scale?
Mhm.
Can you share what kinds of businesses you work with at Hello Alice? You don't have to be specific, but like, are you working with nonprofits even, like for-profit businesses? I know you work a lot with
All of
women.
it. It's mostly early stage. I would say kind of first 5 years of running their business is the majority. It's very reflective, I would say, of the small business ecosystem at large. They're the majority under $1 million, majority under 10 employees. Just this last week, in terms of companies that I try to reach out to as many companies as I can each week, but I've talked to a woman-owned tequila company. I've talked to a spa on Fifth Avenue. I've talked to a pie company that's run out of a woman's home. I'm trying to think of others just this week, but it's such a variety of types of companies. It's across the board. And it's interesting. At the end of the day, they're thinking about the same things. How do I get the best talent? How do I get the right customers through the door? How do I manage my finances and make sure that I have cash to pay everybody? Everyone's dealing with the same things at the end of the day. It's just different ways and different scales and you know a different ability based on where they are to access those resources.
But you mentioned just even getting a credit card is a barrier. So what do you feel like are the biggest gaps for new founders, like funding gaps and opportunities too? Like what does that look like?
I think there's a massive gap in terms of just exposure to what it means to run a business. And I think about my own path through. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and I still think about how much I didn't know about what it was like to run a company in terms of the reality and day to day of it that I learned along the way. But I was surrounded by examples of people who were doing it all the time. And so you can model that and you see that and you sort of just absorb this along the way. Most people don't have that in the US and frankly around the world. Most people don't have that. And so if you think about starting a business in a space that you don't know without the fundamentals of business, without understanding how do you track your finances? How do you make sure you're paying taxes on time? How do you interview somebody for a job? Where do you even find the right talent? And how do you keep that talent engaged and excited and well compensated? And how do you build an amazing customer experience? I mean, I think there's so many pieces that we know because we've experienced them ourselves. And so you often see founders that know one part really well. They're great at finance, or they're
Right.
great at marketing, or they're great at sales. It's
Or
really
delivering
hard
the
to
service.
find.
Like they're good at those things. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they love their product. They have an amazing product,
Uh-huh.
but they don't have it all. And so but at least to know what you don't know or what you aren't good at, that's where I see the biggest gap between the ones who make it and do really well because they can fill those gaps in very quickly and they recognize where they're weak versus the ones that sort of call them sort of like the ping pong entrepreneurs, but they're the pinball entrepreneurs because they're sort of like in this pinball machine of just like bouncing all over the place and not really accomplishing a whole lot. They're just sort of bouncing from side to side,
Yeah.
working on one thing and starting another or doing another. And there's not a lot of strategy or rhyme or reason to how they're operating. And so I think when the fundamentals are in place, and that's where we focus a lot of time at Hello Alice, is these are the indicators of success for a business. Here's how you track in these areas, and here's where you need to focus your energy to start to get up to speed in these spaces. And that means often outsourcing, it means finding the right talent, it means getting the right resources behind you because you can't do it all yourself. Or you can, but you're going to be a solopreneur and it's a different type of company. Oh, sorry about
Speaking of being an entrepreneur, always.
Always. Never told it. All these Apple devices, you have everything connected and you don't know how to disconnect them. Like, try as I might to disconnect them all. Oh
No,
my God.
that's not gonna happen.
No, no.
My phone is literally vibrating under my leg. I had to take it off of my desk because it was so loud. I was like, I gotta do something.
Mine's there. I'm on an airplane mode now. It's done.
So I'm really interested too. I'm sure Melissa has a ton to ask, but so I get these big ideas like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a FOMO thing or what, but I just want to experience as much as humanly possible. And I love, like you just said, that vision and starting from scratch and just seeing the big picture of what something could be. But now you're in it, like in the throes of designing and building this hotel experience in this centuries old space. So how has this like slower hands-on project changed your view on creativity and business and leadership? Because not only are you like teaching other people how to be a solid business owner and really grow their businesses, but you're doing it. Like, how's that going? Is it
I think probably similar to
anything?
you. I just want to experience as much as possible. And I love jumping from project to project.
Yes.
And so it's fun because I get to spend my mornings, you know, working on the hotel, doing it. And again, I'm doing a small piece of it. My husband is fully in the
Who's
mix of it
running with
all.
it?
Amazing team.
You're just coming in and like wreaking havoc every once in a
I
while.
basically, it literally, he always laughs because he's like, you show up and it's like you can see everybody's faces. They're
Yeah.
like,
Like,
oh,
look, I
shoot.
need that brass grout line right
Yeah,
there.
they're like,
Thank
here,
you. Bye.
yeah, like move this, change those, do this. Um, it's great for me. It's a great distraction. It's sort of, I always say it's like people who, work behind a computer all day long love an opportunity to do manual labor, and people do manual labor all day long love a chance to just sit and like, you know, be behind a computer screen. So the last thing I want to do in my spare time is sit behind a computer screen. So
Yes,
it's super
totally.
fun for me to be out there and just in nature and experiencing all of this. It's like a hobby, and so it's very important for me to keep it fun. I would say is critical. I don't have a really tight timeline for it. I'm like, if it goes longer, it goes longer. Like life goes on, we'll be fine. And again, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier is I always go worst case scenario. Like, what's the worst that can happen? It takes an extra year. And we've been at it 3 years now. So just for clarity, it's been a long and slow process. But we're at the last month, which is great. So we're almost there. It's life goes on and it's part of the experience and it's the joy of just watching this thing transform. So I think probably Laura, similar just to what you said, it's like that the ability to kind of bring something to life and start a new project. It's that part's a joy to me. So I just always remind myself when it gets a little bit stressful, is it one that we chose this? Nobody forced us to do this. This is a choice. It's not to remind my husband, I'm like, we chose this. And what a great opportunity it is. I mean, not many people get to do this. And I'm like, this is so cool that we get to live this. And at the end of the day, this is going to be something incredible. And we're going to look back on these times fondly and remember how simple it was before it was filled with guests, before we had to deal with that other set of problems that comes. Right now, I'm like, this is a fun time. Like this is the time that is our time here to enjoy this land and this property. And
Don't
then we
forget,
get to share
this
it
is
with
fun.
you.
Have you always had a creative outlet like before the renovation? Has it been important to you in your process and just your life to have a creative outlet?
I think I've always loved it. I don't think I've always had a release for that as much. I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up playing the piano. I would always sort of tinker with things and I loved creating businesses. I always liked writing,
Yeah.
but I never kind of took anything that seriously. When I got here, it's interesting. Like I started painting, I started playing the piano a ton. I'm, definitely, I like everything. Like I said, I'm making soaps. There's much
And you
more of that. I think
have space to do those things.
yes, I have much more. The days feel longer. I feel like I have more time. I think
Ugh,
in
I love everything.
Houston, I just felt like we were on this like hamster wheel of going. It was like we take the kids to school, we'd go. I'm bad at shutting work off, and
Yep.
so starting early in the morning, I would just go until midnight and then collapse.
Mhm.
Here, I don't start work until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so my whole morning is mine. Like that's my time to do me. The kids are at school. I do miss a little bit of time with them after school, but the reality is they're old and doing their things and in activities, and I'm the last person they want to hang out with most of the time. So it works okay. Um, but I really try to collapse that sort of work and call time as much as possible, so I have flexibility to move the rest around. And it feels like there's much more of a release for that here, which I love. And I don't think I realized how much I needed it,
Yeah.
but I love it.
I mean, I'm kind of jealous. I feel like, well, I mean, Houston, it's very productive. Like you need to produce, you need to be doing something. But I think we often forget that rest is really productive. And I think it's so cool for you. Like you're in an AI powered business, very digital. But when you're not working, I feel like you're the farthest from a computer that you could possibly be.
Totally. Well, and it's nice because everybody's sleeping. When I wake up, my whole team is
Yeah.
asleep. All of our customers are asleep. And so there's sort of this guilt free. And I think that's one of the things I realized how much guilt there was when I wasn't working.
It's
That I
incredible,
could,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, and I think like that is part of just being you're so in that culture of hustle and you wake up, you get in your car, you go to the office, you sit in the office, you get back in your car, you go pick up your kids from whatever, ballet. My kids were not ballerinas, but for example, pick them up, you're home. You're just inside, 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 go, 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 go. And it's just like it's normal and it's life. And it takes really like forcefully stepping away from that to break it. Um, and I think
And
if
I
you're
think in the US, it seems like it's very much like either you work or you don't. If you don't, you're still running around and everything's with kids and you sort of have this like schedule. And just like
it's
here,
still a job, yeah, you're still working.
yeah, I mean, life is this blend. Kids go everywhere with you. I mean, you see kids at a bar at, 11 p.m. on a Saturday night or a Tuesday night. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. They go to the cafes with you. The parents go sit and have a drink in the plaza and the kids are running around playing soccer, and it's this very like intermixed life. The grandparents come along, the aunts and uncles
All
show up, the
integrated,
cousins stuff.
right?
Yes, everything works together. And so your time with your kids is also time with your friends. If I go to my paddle class on Wednesday mornings after everyone's like, let's go have a drink. And 9 times out of 10, everybody has time to go, even though everybody works. Everyone's like, oh, I've got an hour to spend. I can go out. No
Fine.
fees.
Everybody's
Meetings have
going.
no end time. Like if I meet with our architect, that meeting goes until the meeting ends, until there is no longer anything to talk about. That's when the meeting ends. And so you don't plan 20 meetings in a day, you plan two, probably a morning because everybody does break for lunch and an afternoon, and that's it.
Oh, that
And so
sounds
there's
fabulous.
not this like, okay, get it out, go, 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 we have 45 minutes and move through. And it's just this relaxed pace. I always joke that I'm the fastest walker on the sidewalk here. Like I'm always passing people. And I'm the slowest walker on the sidewalk when I get to New York. Everyone's like elbowing me out of the way. They're like, get out of the way. Go. The pace is so different.
I think we're all going to move in. Like we're going to come ruin your town because we're like, this
Listen, there's space. You're welcome to come. I would love to have you all come visit.
I mean, it sounds really lovely. And I think, when we moved to the mountains here, that's what we were seeking was like more balance, but it really is, it's still, we are remote. We work remotely. Like my husband's company, Michael, you've met Michael. He's fully distributed. He's never had an office like you, like they're all over the world. But I feel like even with that, and now I'm remote, our calendars are still like 45 minutes, 15 minutes. Here's my Calendly, meet me for 30 minutes. And that really makes my brain want to blow up. And it's not natural. So like what you're talking about just sounds so idyllic.
I think it's very much a European versus US.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, people, if
Like,
people
what are we
value
even
it, like there
doing?
is nobody grabs lunch and goes here. Like that is the one thing that is very sacred. Doesn't matter what you're doing. People stop, they go home for lunch, they have a nice meal, 2 hours. Siesta is a real deal. People take that break. Stores shut down, everything closes. I mean, the grocery stores are closed here on Sundays. Like nothing happens. And so there's just this slowness to the pace that sometimes is frustrating. Like when you want to get something done. When we first got here, we're like, grocery stores close on Sunday. Like that's the day we shop because that's the only time we have.
Yeah.
And then you learn, you just work around it. You just
You
shop.
just learn that you're going to be
That's
3 years into a renovation and it's okay.
Exactly. Like, I mean, people will
What?
be like,
What's
it's
another year?
August.
It's fine.
They're like, the government is closed for August. You're like,
Yes.
for August? Like, how does the government? My husband had to take an online test and the website shut down for August. He's like, what? Like, it's an online test. Like,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
They're like, no one's looking at it. It is just off right now.
They're serious about it. And as much as we, there are moments that we're like, this is super annoying, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I prefer it because I know the alternative and it's a lot.
Melissa, when you move into Europe?
Oh, well, I'd love to, but the thing is we moved to Houston so I could be closer to my family. So that way we get like my parents live here, or else I would
Oh,
not.
they'll come, Melissa.
I would
My
not be
my
here.
mom is here like every 3 months. She's
So
like,
they will be there.
the family will follow. Don't worry.
I mean, to me, it just sounds ideal. So you live in this great spot. You're traveling once a month. So it sounds like it's relatively easy for you to get in and out.
Yeah, we're
So,
about an hour and a half from Porto, Portugal. So we're literally 5 minutes
okay.
from the border of Portugal. And it's a direct flight from Porto to New York.
Yeah.
So it's about 6.5 hours.
That's not bad.
It's an easy flight. It's like flying to, California or something. It's super quick and you kind of like anything, you get your routine. I know exactly what time I need to leave the house to get to the airport on time and exactly where I'm going to go. So it just becomes part of the routine. And I love it, to be honest. I mean, as much as I love the remote and the quiet and the slowness, it's also
nice.
energizing to have the energy of New York and the energy of the States. And I realize I love both. I love parts of both. But I think when I come home, I'm like, I mean, this is home for me now. When I come to Spain, I'm like, I could breathe, the air is fresh, we're right on the coast. Like it's just everything's green and lush and clean. And you probably get a lot of that in Aspen too. It's just that like a mountain air that you're like,
yeah, I feel like when I come back, and I go to Houston once a month, because that's where our studio is and my family's in Texas. And so, yes, I get the best of both worlds. I get to go to Houston and immerse myself in that, just the work and the creativity in the studio. But then I do get to come back here and it slows down and it's not as slow. I don't think as living in Portugal or Spain, which sounds really, I love a siesta. Like you're speaking my language.
I will say Texans are the friendliest, though. I definitely appreciate that is what I miss when I go home to Texas.
Yeah.
I really appreciate just the smiles on the street and the waves from strangers and
Welcoming and warm. Totally.
yes, people letting you, pass the car in front of them and
Except for my husband and his road rage, but yes. I'm like, sure, buddy,
yeah,
go right ahead. You just go right ahead.
yeah. Here, the Galicians at least they're very warm and loyal, like once they know you, but they're very skeptical at first. And so
Mm, that's
thank
fair.
goodness for having kids. I think it helped us tremendously to kind of break in and having the language, I think helped us tremendously. But it took us a minute at the beginning. I was like, "Oh, they're not." Now it's just a game that we play. We're like, let's get this person to smile. Let's get the stranger to smile.
You will like me.
People love us. But yeah.
And so where you're located, do you get to take like long weekends? Can you just grab the kids and go? Where's your favorite like weekend getaway? If you
Oh
were
my
to,
gosh. Well, we just spent last weekend, we went to the Ribera Sacra, which is basically like the Douro Valley, but the Spain side of it. And so it's these huge terraced vineyards. My husband is a sommelier, loves wine. And so we spent a lot of time in vineyards and like at wineries with amazing views. A lot of time in the ocean. My kids are way into sailing. And so we are often at their regattas. So we travel kind of with them to wherever the regatta is. And it's nice because they're out in the ocean all day and we just spend time in a beautiful place and they get to hang out with each other. Um, and then we're about 4 hours from a ski resort. So in the winter we get to ski. It's in the middle of everything. And then Europe, of course, is very easy to hop on a
it's
plane,
also close. I know.
€100 and you can fly just about anywhere, which is really awesome. So it's been nice. Like but the reality is I don't have the same desire to travel that I used to. Like
Yeah, you want to
I'm
be
so
home.
happy where we are that every day feels like a vacation. Like I was telling my friends the other day, I'm like, I don't I just think about them, where would I go? I would go to the beach, but we have a great beach. I mean, the beach here looks like the Caribbean. It's beautiful. Like I could go to a park, but we have a national park right behind us. I'm like, I don't know what I missed. Like it's
You're like,
all
you just come to me, I'll be here.
yes, the weather here. I always laugh because the first summer we were here, being from Texas, I'm like, I'd ask everybody, what are you doing this summer? Where are you traveling this summer? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why would I leave here? And I realized summer here, I mean, we do have a rainy season in the winter. So I should point that it's quite rainy in the winter, but the summer is spectacular. It's like
Mhm.
75 degrees every day. It's sunny blue skies. You've got the ocean. You've got everyone's like, why would we leave? And
So
so
when's the
nobody drives.
hotel opening? What's the hotel opening date? Because I will be there. I'm going to be the first guest.
It's well, it'll be I think it'll be open next like for next summer. So
Okay.
this year is our year of just settling in, getting everything ready. But I'll put you on our list so you can track when we open for sure.
Please. Yes. I want to be there.
Yes.
I
We
mean,
could do
you really,
a little interior design event. We'll have everybody we'll do a little takeover.
yes. Yeah. Done.
I can do
I
that.
mean, you've really designed a life for yourself. Like you've made decisions, like, and planned this out and designed this life for yourself. And that's what Melissa and I talk a lot about with Design Dash. And that's why we started it, is that I feel like being a creative entrepreneur and having a creative firm can really be a catalyst to designing an entire life you love. It's not just a business. It's integrated with your whole life. With, like you said, your kids are with you, like my girls are with me. I feel like you can really create this thing where it's not just like I go to an office all day and then I come home and they're very separate.
It's what you've done for sure. I mean, I think it's hard because we sort of have this idea that this is how life is supposed to be. And
Right.
this is a path that, you pick your career path and you pick where you're going to live and you have the sort of boxes that you're checking. And it was hard. I mean, when we decided to move, obviously I had to talk to my business partner, I had to talk to my board, I have investors. And having those conversations, it wasn't an easy conversation to have because I realized it's quite unconventional to run a company, from Spain with employees in the US and a market in the US and clients in the US. And I started saying, look, let me do this for a year. Let's test
Mm.
this out and see how this goes. And I worked really hard at the beginning to make sure that nobody felt the difference. And it's funny now because my team is like, oh, I totally forget that you're there. Forget that
Yeah.
it's a different time of day for you. And I forget it's just so much work. I mean, we live in such a digital age and such a connected age that there's flexibility to build life the way that you want to build it. But I
Great.
think it's being intentional about it and then figuring out how to make it work. And it means you've got to compromise some things, right? I have to stay up late and sometimes I have calls at midnight or 1 in the morning, but that's okay because I sleep in the morning and I make up for it and I have my schedule and it's
Worth it.
worth it for me. And I mean, other people may be like, heck no, you're crazy. I would never in a million years do that. But you figure it out. Like it's not, I don't just, there's recipes sometimes that I want to cook and I'm like, I don't know what the heck, where to even buy that ingredient here. I don't think it's even available, but you figure it out and you find the substitution. And I think that's kind of what life is all about.
Yeah,
So
you adapt. You adapt to the fact that there's nothing going on in August or on Sundays, and you just make it work for you.
exactly. Exactly.
For the best. Okay. So I think, I don't know. I mean, I could talk about living in Spain all day because this is right up my alley. I love it.
I feel like I'm ready to interview you two now. I want to hear off the other side.
So I heard that you are a cookie connoisseur. So I'd like to know if you found your favorite cookie.
Oh my gosh. So many cookies.
The hard-hitting question.
Important one. My grandparents actually had a cookie factory in Bolivia. And so that was when I was little. We used to go every summer. We'd go to the cookie factory and pick our cookies off the conveyor belt from the big machines. And
Oh my gosh, that would be such a dream as a kid, just like cookies pouring off a conveyor.
we all had our own cookie named after us. We got to like
Well,
design our own cookies and packages. And it was interesting as a whole community. And I think it's that for me, my dad had a company that was commercial insurance. For me, my grandparents' company was like a very tangible look at entrepreneurship and how it impacted a community and what that could do. And, we'd see all the delivery people come in and pick up the cookies in the morning and they would disperse them all across the country. And it was so real. But my favorite cookie, so hard. I'm kind of like, I really love a not too large, fresh out of the oven, but like it's had enough time for the edges to crisp around it. White chocolate macadamia cookie with dried cranberries. That would be my favorite.
okay.
Not that I'm being specific for it.
Yeah, like
Good choice.
I need a 30-second white macadamia.
There's a real art form to it. And it's funny because people are like, oh, you love cookies. And they're bringing these like big, huge crumble cookies. And I'm like, no. That's not a cookie. I want like, it's gotta be perfectly sized, not too like thick. Like it's, yeah.
Melissa, do you have a favorite cookie?
I'm very much crispy edges, a little bit soft in the center, brown butter chocolate chip with walnut.
Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that either. That's good. What about you, Laura?
I'm easy. I like anything. Well, I'm not. That's a lie. Probably like a salted toffee, something like that. Like, yes. And I just had some this weekend, so that's why I'm like still dreaming about.
I did just have some key lime coconut cookies when I was in London recently, and they were pretty freaking delicious.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm gonna try out that recipe. That's on my list.
Very tropical.
I do love cookies, but I'm not really a great baker, to be honest. So I have to like working on it, but I just source them. I just go out and look and find.
Are you going to have a signature cookie for the hotel?
We are going to have a signature cookie, but I haven't figured out what it is. That's one of my projects once we actually move over there.
That's a fun one.
Have everything set up is to perfect the like perfect cookie. So we will. I don't know what it's going to be yet though. TBD. Something from ingredients. We have a whole orchard of like every kind of fruit you can imagine. There's kiwis and passion fruit and cherries and everything.
I'm curious about, can you please put me on this list for next summer? Because I want to
for sure. Yes.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun. I appreciate you sharing your life and your vision. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Oh, well, this was great fun. Thank you. I never get to talk about this part of my life, so it's really fun.
Thank you, Carolyn. And if anybody's looking for Hello Alice or for your hotel, how can people find you?
Yeah, check us out at helloalice.com. It's totally free, no cost to small businesses. I should clarify that. So it's a great resource for everybody. People always ask me, we make money. We make it off of all the people that want to connect to small businesses, and they're all willing to pay for all the great resources, so you can have it for free. And for the hotel to follow along, it's Casona Agustin it's El Agustin is the name of the hotel, so it's Casona Agustin on Instagram.
Ooh.
Or elagustin.es.
Oh, okay. We'll be looking
following all of it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so great. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.